I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 123. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. I'm so thrilled that you're here. This week, we are building off of last week's podcast episode. So if you haven't listened to episode number 122, I highly recommend it. It's called Picking Your Next Destination. If you listen to that, which is very much about having a target, a number that you're shooting for, and all the things that go with that, which I've talked about some on the podcast, but not in the way that I talked about it last week. So go back and listen to that before you dig into this one is my recommendation. But this week, we're going to build on a bit about the journey between where you are now and the destination that you chose, the next destination that you chose on your path. The reason I'm doing this week's episode is because of a couple of really good conversations I've had with clients are this topic. What we're going to be talking about today is a universal topic. It doesn't matter where you are. In fact, the two conversations that inspired me to do this podcast, one was with a client who's shooting for $2 million, and the other is a client that's shooting for $250,000. So what we're talking about today is a topic that's never not relevant on your journey, which is kind of cool. Okay, here's what we're talking about today. When you put a pin in the map saying this is the destination that we are shooting for specifically, there are, yes, different routes to get there, but no matter what route you choose to get there, no matter what your path looks like to get there, part of that journey between where you are now and the destination that you're shooting for, part of that journey is going to be extremely uncomfortable. The discomfort that you're going to have to manage and experience is very real. But something important to note is that the discomfort that the client who's going for $250,000, the discomfort that they are experiencing is not something that would make my $2 million client uncomfortable. There isn't discomfort there. They know exactly how to deal and handle and show up for the kinds of things that the client at $250,000 is dealing with. But nevertheless, there's discomfort for the $2 million client. It just looks different, tastes different, smells different, feels different. It's just a different thing, but it's still discomfort. And the point I want to make on this podcast is that learning how to experience the discomfort, learning how to open up to the discomfort is very important. And it's a meta skill that you can use no matter where you are on your journey. Rest assured, it will be a part of your journey if you're shooting for the next destination. Because in order to reach that next destination, you have to become the version of yourself that has achieved that next destination to the best of your ability. You have to step into that. You have to become the kind of owner that can have that kind of result that you want to create. And that means leading your firm and morphing your firm into the ways that it needs to be shaped with the help of a team, depending on how big you are. You have to do that, and you have to lead that, and you have to step into that. You have to think in different ways. And when I say think in a different way, you have to understand and remember that the way that you think determines the way that you feel, and the way that you feel determines the actions that you take. And the actions that you take line yourself up to the result that you want to create. Or to a result, period. So it may not always be the one you want to create, but it's because you're not consciously thinking in the ways that you need to be thinking. So you don't feel the ways that will trigger the right kind of action. And so you don't line yourself up with the right result. The discomfort comes in shifting how you think, shaping your perspective, and upping your mental game in order to create the feeling states that need to be created: determination, persistence, confidence, a sense of calm, etc. Those are the feeling states that will drive the kind of quality actions that will line you up to where you want to go. But here's what happens. When you put a destination in a map and it's a stretch, it's like, okay, that is the target. That's where we're going. I've never done that before, but we're getting ready to do it now. All of a sudden, your brain will start kicking in and there'll be a piece of you, a part of you that will start having a voice of, who do you think you are? You don't know how to do this. That's too much money. It's not about the money. There'll be all these thoughts like, I don't have the team for it. I have too much client work. I can't find the time. It can't be top priority because X, Y, and Z needs to be. There's all these reasons that your brain will throw at you that feel true, that you will want to give into and you will let take over unless you recognize, oh, this is the discomfort. The cognitive dissonance that I am experiencing right now is the discomfort. And if I open myself up to that, instead of trying to resist the discomfort or wish it wasn't there, or I allow myself to be paralyzed by the voices in my head and all the discomfort that's created. Instead, you open yourself up to the dissonance. You open yourself up to the discomfort. You allow space for those voices because that's part of the journey. And you move forward anyway. You take a breath and you go forward anyway in the best ways that you know how. That is a meta skill. That if you can develop that, it does not matter where you are on your journey. It is the very thing that will lend itself to your success. Last week, when I talked about picking a destination, it is about just that. And unless you pick a destination, you will never be able to experience the discomfort that I'm talking about. But the thing about creating something new and something exciting and seeing what you're made of is the only way to see what you're made of is to be able to expose yourself to that discomfort and learn how to open yourself up to the discomfort and take the next steps anyway towards the target that you've chosen. Because that is what it's about. It is not about the number. You're right. And that's the thing. Your brain is going to spout all this stuff off to you. It doesn't matter what it's saying. It's not about the number. You don't need more money. That's not why we're picking a destination in the map. That's not why we're choosing a target. We're choosing a target because we want to see what we're made of. We're choosing a target because it's fun to see what we can build. And you know what happens when you build something and when you see what you're made of? The numbers go up. So pick the number, your next destination, pick that number, and then now move into the discomfort. Make space for all the reasons that your brain is going to give you why this is a bad idea, why you can't do it, all the doubt, all the fear, allow all that to creep in. Open up to it, take a deep breath, and make some choices anyway that line yourself up with the result. Experience the cognitive dissonance, sit with it, open up to it, and then move anyway. And decide, what do you need to tell yourself right now in order to be able to take the next best step? What needs to happen so that you do have space and you allow and you make space for the voice that is doubtful and throwing reasons at you why this is ridiculous and why you can't do it and why these barriers are the end all be all. What can you do to allow room for all of that and to open up to the possibilities and taking the next step anyway? This is extremely important. And many people will barrel their way towards a result. But what they missed out on was the skill and learning and developing and practicing the skill of opening up to the discomfort instead of shoving it down and using willpower to barrel through, which will provide you with a result that's slippery. It will provide you with a result that you can't sustain because you didn't become who you needed to become to actually have that result. Getting to a result and being able to have a result are two very different things. And if you use willpower and you barrel through and there's all this discomfort and you try to bulldoze the discomfort and go towards, squash the discomfort and go towards the goal, you can get to the goal, but it's not sustainable because someone who can actually make space to have that new reality that you've created by achieving that destination, have that amount of money, have the kind of organization that produces that kind of money in a really sustainable way. To do that, you have to actually open up to the discomfort and move through it and become the kind of person that makes the right calls, that thinks in these new ways, that makes space for all the doubt and all of the discomfort and makes the right moves anyway. All of that. is what I mean when I say you have to become the kind of person you need to be in order to have the results you want to have. Because whether you're shooting for 250K and there's all these voices and doubt and on the barriers and the things that you can't do and why you shouldn't do it and who are you and you don't have the time for this, why are you grinding like this, all the voices that will happen and the painful feeling states that come from those kinds of thoughts. You have to make space for all of that, allow all of it, and take a deep breath and continue to move in the direction of your target anyway. It's a very different experience and it's a very different development of yourself that will produce sustainable results along the way. And whether you're on the 250K journey, whether you're shooting for 500K, it's going to be a different voices, different thoughts, different feelings, but it's all still going to be very uncomfortable. Or whether you're shooting for 2 million or 5 million, it doesn't matter. There will be voices. That voice in your head, the inner critic, the doubter, will have different things to say depending on where you are on your journey, because what the barriers are at 250 are not the same kind of barriers at 2 million. There's still so much discomfort no matter what you're shooting for next. That's a part of the journey. And if you've read Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap, it talks about the upper limit. It's just you hitting your next upper limit. It's so freaking uncomfortable to bump up against your current upper limit. And subjecting yourself to that discomfort is literally the only way you're going to be able to see what you're made of. It's the only way to see what's possible is to subject yourself to that discomfort. And then once you've decided, okay, and that's you picking the destination, just doing that alone, you're subjecting yourself to discomfort. Now, the way that you deal with that discomfort will determine the quality of the result that you create. Meaning, if you, just like I said a minute ago, but I'm doing a recap here, if you squash down all the discomfort and all of the self-doubt and the voices and the inner critic that comes in, if you squash that down and just barrel your way through, you might get to the result, but you will be a shell of yourself and you won't be able to hold that and create the next level because you don't have enough of a foundation. And if you open up to the dissonance and the discomfort, then and you breathe into it and you allow space for all of it and you take the next steps anyway, then you create this version of yourself that is capable of reaching the destination in a way that it becomes your foundation. There's two things that are coming to my mind here that I think will be helpful to remind you of. One is the Alex Ferguson documentary that I shared a few episodes ago. It's called Never Give In. That documentary, he talks about our plan, our journey, right? Our plan became our new foundation. It was like at the end of the episode where I talked about lessons from that documentary. And that is what I mean. If you move through this in the right ways, if you open yourself up to the dissonance and the discomfort and you keep developing that part of you, even though the discomfort is there and you're allowing it, you're allowing space for all of it, you have the capacity for all of it, then that new target that you actually do eventually reach, it becomes your foundation for what's next. But if you stuff everything down and push everything aside and you shut down the negative inner doubt and critic, and then you just barrel your way through, you aren't creating a foundation. You're just grabbing at something. And that's very different. And the other thing this makes me think of that I'll share with you guys is the quote that I say all the time on this podcast, which is, the smartest people on the planet are always reaching for the next rung on the ladder. And they also know that it's not about the next rung, it's about the stretch. This is the stretch, this discomfort that you must learn how to allow space for and develop yourselves in all the way that you need to develop yourselves. That is the stretch. That is the stretch that will allow you to get to the next rung in a way where you can stay there. It's sustainable. So this topic is so interesting because I think this is the most important thing that you can learn how to do is to experience and have capacity for all of the discomfort and still move forward anyway. And it's a very specific feeling. And for me, I say this a lot, and I've probably said it a few times here on this podcast, it really is about breathing into it. Like I have to imagine myself opening up to the pain because sometimes it really is painful. The decisions that you have to make are so difficult and tough in certain scenarios. And the stretching, like I'm just thinking of my capacity to be able to hold space for all of the discomfort, all of the hard stuff, and make room for all of the new and development and the new things put into place. It's like all of that you have to develop the capacity for. You can't just shut down the parts that feel crappy and like do the hard thing and then sort of while you're closing your eyes, just kind of barreling through all the stuff and then open your eyes and you're at the next destination. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. Not that you can't achieve it, but it'll be fleeting. No one here is going for that, right? So this podcast is important. And I'm sure there'll be future podcasts that are something around this as well, maybe from a different angle. But you have to understand that learning how to navigate all of this, it's required to rise up in order to really meet and attain that next destination that you're wanting to achieve for yourself, that target. All of this, you have to be able to experience and embrace and allow the discomfort that comes with it. It's part of the territory. And if you try to pretend that it's not, you're doing yourself a disservice. And when you do yourself a disservice, that means that there's a ripple effect of that for those around you as well. You have an opportunity to move in a direction and become this version of yourself that you need to be in order to see what you're really made of. And the more you open up to the discomfort and you develop the capacity to handle the discomfort is a feeling. The worst thing that can happen is a feeling. And as you move towards where you want to go, the ripple effect of that is so positive. You bring people with you. You become an example of what's possible. You show people how to actually achieve these things, how to stay committed to the target that you're shooting for while opening up to all the discomfort and saying yes to all of that. The good, the fun, and the not so fun, and the discomfort, and the inner critic, and the voices that'll tell you to shut it down. Stay safe. Nothing's wrong with where you are. You don't need to go anywhere. Just stay right here. But then you don't see what you're made of. And so when you embark on that journey and you are willing to open up and be an example of how to move in that direction so that you're developing yourself to the best of your ability to be the kind of person that can have that result that you're trying to create, you become an example for all of those people around you. And the success that's created by you doing that, other people get to benefit from that success. You open up space for new employees to come into your firm and to experience what it's like to work in your firm. You affect their families because of the success. Like they get a paycheck because of the success you keep leveling up to. Now other people get to provide for their families, and other people get to become an example for their families because of the example that you have been for them. The ripple effect of this meta skill is ridiculous. And you don't escape this discomfort with a certain level of success. It's just a next level of discomfort that you're going to have. So wishing it goes away and trying to get it to stop and just barreling through to your goals and telling yourself if you could just get there, then this won't be a problem anymore. That's a lie. Just make sure that you're telling yourself the truth about that. And if that's the case, if we're going to have discomfort, as long as you're shooting for something, there's going to be this growth required of you in order to get to something. You're going to experience that discomfort. And if that's the case, then we might as well get very good at the skill of being able to have the capacity and to allow all of that discomfort as we move forward, to breathe into that as we move forward, to open up to it as we move forward, instead of trying to barrel through to the next level. This meta skill will change everything for you. Trust me, this is my job. This is what I do. So not only do I experience this for myself, and I work very hard to practice what I preach, to walk the talk, but I also see it in clients all the time and my friends who are extremely successful all the time. It doesn't matter what level of success they get to, they still experience this. So do yourself a favor. Expose yourself to discomfort. Subject yourself to that on purpose. And you do that just by putting a destination that's going to make you really stretch. That is subjecting yourself to discomfort. And then as you are experiencing the discomfort, open up to it. Allow it, embrace it, all of that, because that is the very skill that is required every new level, every next level, no matter what that level is for you. And take pride in the fact that you are putting a destination in the map that is requiring that kind of growth. That's awesome. If that is you, that means that you are putting yourself in scenarios to be able to see what you're made of, to see what's possible. That's what you're doing when you experience a discomfort. Discomfort is a sign that that's what you're on track for. And there's a discomfort that's like really because you're growing and developing yourself. There's that kind of discomfort. That's the kind of discomfort I'm talking about. There's also a discomfort that comes with playing too small. It's like you feel trapped a little bit by everything. That discomfort is very, very different. And there's a lack of clarity about what you're moving towards with that kind of discomfort. But when you pick a destination and you're going to move towards something, that's a different discomfort. And that's what I'm talking about. That's the discomfort that you have to learn how to experience fully, because you will move through it much more quickly if you're willing to, and you will achieve results that are lasting, that become your new foundation for the next and the next and the next. And again, I can't say this enough. It's not about the next and the next and the next. It's about the capacity that you develop and the capability that you develop along the way to the next. And then you open up again when you're shooting for the next thing. And you have to develop your capacity and your capability and your confidence. You have to become a different version of yourself in regards to all of that. And the only way to do that is to really embrace and allow the discomfort that's there and move towards the target anyway. It's a beautiful, beautiful cycle. And the more that you get used to this and the more that you realize what is happening, I think people give up too soon because they don't understand what's happening. It's just so uncomfortable and painful that they'll just close back up and play small again. But when you can understand what's happening, it's just your brain firing off. It's the new, it's the unknown, and your brain is not cool with that. There's a part of your brain that will never be cool with that. And the more that you learn how to play with that, and the more that you open up to it, and it becomes fun to go for the next thing. Because even though the discomfort is not fun maybe to feel in your body, there is something about it that's really gratifying, because you know that by experiencing discomfort and opening up to it, you know what that means. You get what that means. It means that you're on your way to this greater level of capacity and capability and confidence and developing yourself. It's a really cool process that the more awareness you have around it, the more fun it becomes to achieve great things and new things and what was seemingly impossible at one time, those kinds of things, because you understand the process, you understand what's required, and it becomes a bit of a game. So I'm hoping this podcast can open up some of your eyes and brains and hearts to the truth of discomfort and the role that it plays in the journey of going towards your next destination. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. We'll see you here next Tuesday. Hey there. If you enjoyed this podcast, I highly recommend you come and check out Mastery Group. It is where owner attorneys come together to study this material, apply it, and thus create really big results for their firm and for their life. So come on over, velocitywork.com/join to get more information and get started. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.